Grandma catches the pastor with her daughter, and what she does next is utterly shocking. Evelyn had always prided herself on being a fortress in her small town. With her silver hair pulled back into a neat bun and a heart that had weathered countless storms, she was the rock of her church community. Sundays were spent surrounded by her congregation, unwavering in her faith. A true matriarch, nothing could shake her steady resolve. Until one fateful afternoon, when her world tilted on its axis. As the sun dipped low, casting long shadows through the church's stained glass, Evelyn made her way home, her heart light from the laughter of the ladies' tea she'd just attended. But as she approached her front door, a strange sound caught her attention, a hushed giggle followed by a soft whisper that sent a chill rippling through her chest. She paused, confusion knitting her brow. Maya, her rebellious granddaughter, was supposed to be at school, not at home in the middle of a school day. What mischief was she up to? A sense of dread clutched at her heart as she approached the open doorway, the light spilling into the dim hallway, revealing a scene that wouldn't just shake her faith, it would shatter it. Peering through the door, Evelyn's breath caught in her throat. There, in the living room, was Pastor John, the man who had guided her through her darkest days and helped her heal after losing her husband, a figure of moral authority tangled up with Maya in a way that twisted the very fabric of her being. They were too close, sharing secrets in the soft afternoon light that sharpened every detail, magnifying the intimacy between them. Stunned, Evelyn staggered back, hands trembling as the air in her lungs felt dense and stale. How could it be? The pastor, with his gentle sermons and comforting words, reduced to an image that made her stomach churn. Her heart thudded against her ribs, pain searing through her like a hot knife. Everything she believed, everything she held sacred, began to unravel. Maya's laughter echoed in the sudden silence, carefree and naive, an innocence shattered by a betrayal so profound. As Evelyn processed the sight, a whirlwind of emotions rocked her. Anger, heartbreak, disbelief. She wanted to protect her granddaughter, but how could she? The betrayal felt like a treachery against the entire community, and the pastor, a beacon of faith, now shrouded in shadows. Desperate for clarity, Evelyn staggered back, a storm brewing within her. What should she do? Confront the pastor? Shield her family? The walls of her well-ordered world were closing in, and doubts began to bubble to the surface. The tightly knit community would judge. They always did. Would they side with her or with the beloved man in the pulpit? As the situation escalated and a new revelation loomed on the horizon, Evelyn felt the ground shift beneath her. Audacious whispers of the scandal began circling her mind. Loyalty, faith, and the meaning of honor hung precariously in the balance. In the pit of her stomach, she sensed that this was only the beginning of a tumultuous journey that would uncover family secrets long buried, threatening to shatter everything she had worked so hard to maintain. Hey, before we continue with this incredible story, I need to give you an important warning. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube removed their subscriptions without notice. Just take a quick look at the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any exclusive content coming up. And since you're here, Smash that like button, because it really helps me with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who is part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's interact. Evelyn stood frozen at the threshold, heart pounding like a war drum. Pastor John's silhouette loomed near Maya. A shadow of betrayal cast deep into the room. Just as Evelyn took a breath to confront this twisted scene, a loud crash shattered the silence like glass. A figure burst through the back door, a stranger, wild-eyed and breathing. Heavily, as if he had fled from a nightmare. "What are you doing?" he shouted, his voice a mix of panic and desperation. He wasn't here for the pastor or her granddaughter. He was here for something else. Evelyn's body tensed. Who was this man? His clothes were torn, dirt covered his face, and fear radiated off him like heat from a fire. Maya jumped. Her laughter turned to confusion instantly. "Get away from her!" Pastor John shouted, stepping protectively in front of Maya. But something about his tone sent a fresh wave of doubt crashing through Evelyn's mind. Was he truly defending her granddaughter? Or was there something darker, hidden beneath that pious facade? "What are you talking about?" the stranger continued, his voice raw with urgency. "You have no idea what you're all caught up in. You have to listen." Evelyn's heart raced, each beat echoing the chaos swirling inside her. She felt like she was watching a play, every performer suddenly out of character. But this was no stage. It was her home, her family, her life splintering before her eyes. "Who are you?" Evelyn demanded, her voice trembling slightly despite her resolve. She took a step forward, hoping to regain control of the spiraling moment, but every step felt like wading through thick mud. "I'm here to warn you. Pastor John, he's not who you think he is." The stranger's words poured out, like a confession, raw and unpolished. "You need to get away from him. He's dangerous. He's involved in something that could ruin everything." Evelyn felt a chill run down her spine. The world around her twisted into a blur of colors. Doubt skidded across her mind. Was her rock really a monster? Was her faith misplaced? "Enough of this!" Pastor John's voice cut through the air like a knife. "You don't know what you're talking about." A flicker of something unrecognizable crossed the pastor's eyes. A flicker of fear? Defiance? Evelyn had always seen him as a pillar of strength, a shepherd to guide her. But the foundations of her trust cracked open wide. "Stop! Just tell us." "The truth," Maya cried, eyes wide with shock, caught between loyalty and disbelief. The young girl's voice bridged the raw emotions of both worlds colliding, innocent yet shattering. The stranger hesitated. "Look, I don't have time to explain everything, but there's proof, evidence that connects him to—" Suddenly, a phone rang, shrill and jarring, breaking the tension like a fragile bubble. It was Evelyn's phone, vibrating ominously in her pocket. She pulled it out, eyes darting to the screen, an unknown number flashing ominously. A wave of dread washed over her. Before she could answer, Pastor John stepped closer, his face set, eyes blazing. "You don't want to know what's on that line. Trust me." His voice held an edge, like a knife against her throat. Evelyn could feel the air crackling, tension thick enough to cut. Her grip on the phone tightened, mind racing. What if he's telling the truth? The nagging thought clawed at her. One decision loomed ahead. What would she choose? The lies of a beloved pastor or the words of a desperate man? She felt the ground shift beneath her. Those she loved, The life she had built, teetering on the brink. Would she make the call? Dive deeper into a mystery that could unravel her family? Or would she defend the pastor against an accusation that felt as heavy as a lead weight? Uncertainty hung thick in the air. The moment hung in balance, an invisible line drawn in the sand. What truth was about to surface? Evelyn's heart raced as she stood between two worlds, one filled with love and faith, the other teetering on the brink of chaos. She clutched her phone tightly, staring at Pastor John with a mix of disbelief and desperate need for answers. All those sermons, all that comfort, could it really be a facade? Wait, what do you mean he's dangerous? She asked the stranger, her voice shaking. I can't explain everything now, he gasped, eyes frantic. But enough! Pastor John's voice boomed through the room, slicing the air like glass. You need to leave. You don't belong here. Evelyn's breath hitched. This man, in her church? Her community, so much more than just a figurehead. Now a possible danger? She couldn't understand. The trust built over years felt like quicksand. Evelyn, you can't believe him, Pastor John said, his tone switching to a calmness that sent shivers down her spine. He's just trying to ruin us. Maya looked from her grandmother to the pastor, bewildered. Grandma, what do we do? The stranger's wild eyes darted from one to the other, desperation etched on his face. Listen, I'm telling you the truth. You have to believe me. He's involved with people who hurt others. He's not safe. Evelyn hesitated, a memory clawing its way back. Past whispers about mysterious dealings, strange characters lurking around the church at odd hours. But could she let those thoughts color her perception of someone she cherished? Suddenly, Pastor John lunged toward Maya, his expression shifting to something darker. Get away from him! Evelyn's heart leaped. Fear twisted in her gut. What are you doing? She stepped forward, ready to shield her granddaughter. But then, the back door slammed open again. This time, it wasn't just a stranger. This was something far worse. A young woman burst through, her clothes tattered, hair disheveled, eyes wide. Get down! She screamed, pointing a finger, shaking with terror. He's coming for you! What? Who's coming? Evelyn was dizzy with confusion. Her thoughts spiraled. The stranger, the pastor? What was happening? The air felt electric. Panic tightened around them like a vice. As if on cue, a loud crash echoed from outside. The sound of footsteps pounding on the porch, heavy and rhythmic, closing in. Evelyn's instincts kicked in. We need to go! But Pastor John held his ground, defiant. They can't get in here. I won't let them. His confidence dropped like a lead weight. Maya looked between them. What do we do, Grandma? Please! The wild-eyed stranger gripped Maya's arm, now intent on urging her away. You have to trust me. He's not the man you think he is. Stop! Pastor John erupted, his composure cracking. He's just lying to you! Suddenly, the front door burst open, revealing a menacing figure silhouetted in the fading light. His face was obscured, but the glint of something sharp flashed in his hand, a knife. Evelyn's breath caught. Her body froze in terror. The scene unfolded like a slow-motion nightmare. Run! The stranger shouted, shoving Maya back. But the pastor stepped forward, his posture shifting to shield the girl. Stay away from her, he growled, a wild energy surging through him, something raw and primal. The tension snapped like a tight cord. Before Evelyn could react, Pastor John lunged forward, causing confusion to swirl like smoke in the air. Every emotion exploded. Anger, fear, disbelief, everything she held dear shattering like fragile glass. As the figure edged closer, the reality of each relationship twisted. The man she once looked up to was wrapped in a shroud of danger. Her family, her beliefs, everything she knew slipped away, unraveling the fabric of her life. And as the knife glinted ominously, Evelyn wondered, what truth would come to light? What was the real danger lurking in their lives? In that moment, she knew answers weren't just a choice away. They were a matter of survival. But would she find strength? Or would the darkness consume them all? Evelyn's heart raced as she stood frozen in the chaos around her. The figure in the doorway loomed closer, knife glinting in the fading sunlight. Panic constricted her throat, tightening with each heartbeat. She couldn't breathe. "Get down!" the woman had screamed. But would they even have time? Maya's eyes were wide, darting from the pastor to the stranger, confused and terrified. "Grandma?" she whispered, her voice small and trembling. "Run!" the stranger shouted again, his voice filled with desperation. Evelyn clutched the phone like a lifeline. "Stay away from her," Pastor John shouted, his expression twisted with rage and something else. Was it fear? Evelyn felt torn. Her instincts were screaming at her to protect her granddaughter, to shield them both from whatever danger was lurking just beyond the door. But then, suddenly, the tension shattered with a loud bang. The door flung open, and inside burst another figure. This time a man, wild-eyed and desperate, with dirt smeared across his face. He looked like he had run 100 miles. "Evelyn, you have to come with me," he shouted, panting heavily, his words barely coherent. "Who are you?" she gasped. "What's happening?" "Please, it's not safe here." He stepped into the room, between the psycho with the knife and Pastor John. The tension in the air hung thick enough to choke on. Pastor John turned to face this new threat. "You're just making it worse," he growled, a hint of panic creeping into his voice. With a sudden flash, the man lunged forward, not toward them, but straight past John, and without a second thought, plowed into Maya. "No!" Evelyn screamed, weeping forward, as if she could somehow reach them in time. But the man didn't harm Maya. Instead, in a desperate secrecy, he pressed something into her hands, rough and small, a sleek flash drive. "Take this. You'll need it," he whispered urgently, his eyes darting around as if he expected someone to jump out from the shadows. "What?" Maya exclaimed, her young face twisted in confusion. "Run!" he barked as he pushed her back toward Evelyn. Before Evelyn could process the exchange, Pastor John threw himself at the man, tackling him to the ground with a force that rattled the room. The knife slipped from the other man's grip, clattering across the floor like thunder. "Enough! Get out!" Pastor John roared. But then he paused, eyes going wide as he glanced down at the stranger. And that's when the impossible happened. The man on the ground stopped struggling. He relaxed, almost as if he was surrendering. "John," the man said quietly, eyes narrowing, "you don't know what you're doing." Evelyn's heart stopped as she recognized the tremor in the man's voice. "What do you mean?" she breathed, feeling the air grow heavy with unspoken truths. Then Pastor John blurted out, "What do you know about my father?" The room fell into silence, like a thick blanket wrapping around them. Evelyn felt coldness creeping up her spine. "What?" Maya whispered, eyes flickering between the two men. The man on the floor whispered back, "Your father is not who you think he is. You need to listen to me." Evelyn stumbled back, her mind racing. The pastor's father? What in the world could that mean? "Maya, hold on to that!" Evelyn shouted, thrusting the flash drive into her granddaughter's hand. The girl nodded, confusion etched on her face. "Get away from him!" Pastor John shouted again, rage spiking in the tension as panic swirled like a storm. "He's using you! He's always used you!" "No! Listen to me!" the stranger cried, desperation evident. "They're coming for you, John. You have to understand where this leads." But all of it felt like a surreal dream, one Evelyn couldn't grasp. The knife lay forgotten beneath layers of connection and fear. The truth was unraveling, each thread revealing deeper secrets, darker than she had ever imagined. Her heart pounded in her chest, knowing this was only the beginning. Would anyone leave this house safe? The back door creaked ominously. Would they be able to escape the dark shadows closing in? Or would the truth destroy them before dawn? Evelyn's heart hammered in her chest as she stood paralyzed by the chaos. The knife glinted in the fading light, the air thick with tension. The wild-eyed stranger wrestled with Pastor John, urging him to listen, while Maya's small hands clutched the flash drive, confusion clouding her young face. "Evelyn, you have to come with me!" The stranger shouted again, a plea laced with desperation. "Who are you?" she demanded, her voice shaking. "What's happening?" "Just trust me," he insisted, panic flaring in his eyes. Behind him, the storm was raging. Pastor John twisted his body, throwing the stranger off with sudden force, eyes blazing with anger. "I won't let you take them!" A cold chill draped over the room, and as the two men faced off, the atmosphere weighed heavy. The shadows danced around them, flickering like the last light of day. Just then, the back door burst open once more, a gust of wind flooding the room. A figure dashed inside, and Evelyn's breath caught in her throat. It was her daughter, Sarah, looking a mess, hair disheveled, clothes torn, eyes wide with terror. "Mom, you have to listen!" she gasped, nearly collapsing against the doorframe. Evelyn's mind swirled with disbelief. "Sarah, what are you doing here? Are you okay?" It's about John. You don't understand." Her voice trembled, laden with unshed tears. "He's not who you think he is." Evelyn's heart sank like a stone. "What do you mean?" "He's involved with dangerous people, Mom. I didn't believe it at first, but—" Sarah's gaze flicked to the pastor, her expression morphing from fear to fury. "He's been lying to you all!" "Stop!" Pastor John shouted, hands clenched like fists, a vein throbbing in his temple. "You don't know what you're talking about." But Evelyn couldn't breathe. Her family was fracturing under the weight of secrets. "Why would you say that?" she demanded of Sarah, desperation creeping into her voice. "Because Sarah hesitated, glancing over at the stranger on the ground. "I found something big, a file that connects him to all of it." Her words cracked the surface of the room. Silence fell heavily, thick with anticipation. "What file?" Evelyn whispered, her voice barely audible. Sarah looked at Maya, then back at her mother, fear etched across her face. "A video. It shows everything. What he's involved in, the money, the deals. It's dangerous, Mom. You have to believe me." "Maya, give me that flash." "Drive," the stranger pressed, his voice low but urgent. "No!" Pastor John stepped forward, his gaze wild. "They're manipulating you. It's a trap!" But before he could reach them, a heavy crash resounded outside, rattling the frame of the house. "They're here!" the stranger yelled. Evelyn's heart raced. In a split second, reality twisted like a knife wound. All the faith she had placed in her pastor, the sermons, the support, now hung in the balance. "Mom, you have to make a choice!" Sarah cried, voice thick with emotion. "Believe me, or believe him!" With those words, everything changed. The ground felt like it was shifting beneath her, the walls closing in. Then Evelyn noticed something odd in the back of the stranger's pocket. A familiar shape, a glimmer of a badge. "Wait, are you?" she started, but the sound of heavy footsteps approached, relentless and closing. "Run! Now!" he barked, pulling Maya close as the shadows outside converged. Figures forming, a flash of brutal authority. Evelyn's stomach dropped. "Who are you?" she gasped, realization dawning. But just as the truth unfurled, the door exploded inward, shadows crashed through, and her heart shattered at the sight. Officers, guns drawn, commanding control. "Freeze! Everyone on the ground!" In that instant, Evelyn felt an overwhelming rush of fear and betrayal. The world she thought she knew was unraveling like threadbare fabric, and in the chaos, she realized her family was caught in the crossfire of a dangerous web where loyalties twisted and nothing was as it seemed. As she fell to the floor, heart racing, one question echoed in her mind. Who could she trust when the truth felt like a stranger? Evelyn dropped to her knees, the sound of shouting officers mixing with the chaos swirling in her mind. Her heart beat wildly, every instinct screaming for her to protect her family. Maya was still clutching the flash drive, eyes darting as the officers shouted commands, their voices drowning out the reality she was spiraling into. The tension crackled in the air, heavy and suffocating. Pastor John stood rigid, a mix of defiance and fear etched across his face. "You don't understand. I've helped this community," he yelled, but it felt hollow, like a confession steeped in denial. The officers moved in closer, guns pointed forward. "Get on the ground!" they shouted again, their demand echoing, sending a shiver down Evelyn's spine. She turned instinctively to grab Maya, to shield her from all of this. But then, the wild-eyed stranger sprang to his feet, the lift in his tone cutting through the noise. "Wait! You have to listen! This isn't what it looks like!" He pointed directly at Pastor John, eyes pleading. But Evelyn felt her gut twist even more. Who was he compared to a man she had trusted for years? "Enough!" one of the officers barked, the urgency in his voice snapping everyone back to reality. But then, just as things seemed to reach a breaking point, something shifted. A loud crash echoed outside, louder than before. Glancing through the doorway, Evelyn barely registered what was happening. But then, the sound of screeching tires filled the air. Her heart plummeted. It was getting worse. Then, like a scene from a movie, a black SUV barreled up and skidded to a stop right in front of her house. Doors flung open, and men in dark suits spilled out, some with firearms drawn, others with badges prominently displayed. "FBI, we're here for Pastor John!" one shouted as they rushed into the house. A sense of disbelief washed over her. What was happening? The world shrank around her as she struggled to process the chaos. Evelyn stood, sensing the weight of every moment hanging thick in the air. "You can't take him! He's innocent!" she cried. But doubt crept into her voice. Was he? Maya grabbed her arm, pulling her back. "Grandma, wait! Maybe they're right! You saw how he reacted!" The fear in her eyes reflected the whirlwind of emotions swirling inside Evelyn. Could they be right? Was her trust misplaced? In the craziness, Pastor John's voice broke through in a wild, panicked tone. "You don't understand, I'm—" But before he could finish, gunfire erupted from the direction of the SUV. The sound jolted Evelyn, razor-sharp, sending vibrations through the floor. She gripped Maya's shoulders, pulling her close as chaos unfolded in front of them. Then, an unexpected figure emerged from the back seat of the SUV. Or rather, an unexpected flash of recognition. Evelyn's breath caught in her throat as the last of the light caught the figure's face. It was Sarah. What was she doing with the FBI? A wave of confusion washed over her as she tried to make sense of it. "Sarah!" she cried out, voice rising above the ruckus. That same familiar panic danced in her daughter's eyes. "Mom, But before Sarah could finish, an officer stepped forward, focusing hard on Pastor John, an urgency in his voice. "You're coming with us. We have questions. Your father's involved in something you don't even know." The floor felt like it was crumbling beneath Evelyn's feet. Everything she thought she knew, her family, her faith, was unraveling. The truth lurked just out of reach, dark and unyielding. As Sarah's eyes darted to the stranger, fear shone through like a beacon. "They'll kill you if you don't tell them the truth." Panic zapped through Evelyn as she tried to recall any clue she may have missed. But then it hit her. A flash of memories, whispers, looks shared in secret. "What truth?" she whispered, fear coiling tightly around her heart. Just then, the world seemed to pause. Everything hinged on one answer. Would she finally uncover the secret buried deep beneath layers of trust and love? Or would this be the final nail in the coffin of their fragile family? The moment hung heavy, a breath suspended in time, as they stood on the precipice of everything crumbling around them. Evelyn felt as if the walls of their reality were about to collapse, her heart pounding a frantic rhythm of dread. Would she find out who Pastor John truly was? Or would this knowledge bring more pain than she could bear? Evelyn dropped to her knees, the shouting officers blending into a chaotic symphony of panic. Adrenaline crashed through her like a tidal wave, pushing her instincts to protect Maya above everything else. As the officers yelled, pointing their guns, Pastor John's defiance seemed to falter. Could he really be the threat? "Maya, stay close!" Evelyn's voice sliced through the noise as she reached for her granddaughter, heart racing. Tension snapped like a tight string as Sarah lunged forward, her eyes wide with desperation. "Mom, you have to listen. I didn't want to believe it, but I've seen the connections. He's involved in something underground, something dangerous." Evelyn stared at her daughter, disbelief washing over her like cold water. "Sarah, stop. This isn't the time." The sound of thunderous footsteps echoed behind them. Shadows loomed at the edges of the doorway. A flood of memories rippled through Evelyn's mind, whispers of secrecy unfurling. Like storm clouds, what had she missed all these years? Before she could respond, Pastor John's eyes flickered toward his father, seated somewhere in the unseen shadows, a tinge of fear mixing with anger. "Don't you dare drag my father into this!" he shouted. But his voice trembled, a crack in his armor that sent a chill down Evelyn's spine. "Enough!" snapped an officer, tightening his grip on the gun. "You're coming with us, Pastor." Panic gripped Evelyn as she saw the wild-eyed stranger inch closer, urgency lighting his features. "Listen, Pastor, you need to tell them the truth. You don't know what they're after." Just then, as if timed with perfect tragedy, another loud crash erupted outside. The house, making the walls shudder. The officers spun, their focus shifting, hearts racing. What else was coming? And then it happened. A woman burst through the door behind the danger. Someone Evelyn recognized instantly. It was Marie, the church secretary, her face pale and frantic. "No!" she cried out, dragging Evelyn's attention to the chaos outside. "They're here! They found you all!" A wave of confusion washed over Evelyn. "What do you mean?" she gasped, bewildered. "Your husband! He's not dead! He's been hiding! He's alive!" Marie's words hit like a punch, knocking the breath out of Evelyn. Memories flooded back. Years of pain, mourning, doubt. The man she'd buried, was he really alive? "Mom, what is she talking about?" Sarah shouted, affected by the horror unfolding. "I don't know," Evelyn cried, desperation pooling in her eyes. But deep inside, the ground shifted again. Pastor John's face twisted, rage boiling over. "That's a lie! He died!" But the certainty in his voice faded. Could it be true? As Marie shook her head, a glimmer of unwavering resolve danced in her eyes. "He's been living under a different name, working with the people John is involved with. They want him silenced." A chill rippled through Evelyn. Everything crumbled, her every belief shaking. Before she could even grasp the magnitude of what Marie revealed, the lights in the room flickered. Darkness loomed as shadows darted outside, and the sound of heavy pounding echoed on the door. The danger now surged right at their doorstep. "Evelyn!" John's voice trembled. "Think about what you're doing! We can talk our way out of this!" But her world was shattering. She had questions now, swirling like a tempest. "What's going on, John?" The darkness at the door seemed to pulse as heavy footsteps approached in sync. Maybe there was more to everyone. Past secrets blossomed in this terrifying moment. What was the truth? As the pounding grew louder, the fear tightened around her heart. Would she still believe in the man she once revered? Could the truth tear their family apart even further? Maya clutched her grandma's arm, her young face pale. "Grandma, what do we do?" Evelyn could hear her own heartbeat in that suffocating silence. She looked at everyone, at the familiar faces turned strange. Things were spiraling into darkness. And as the door shook violently, something inside her whispered, whatever this truth was, it was about to change everything. The question lingered like smoke in the air. Would they all survive this? Evelyn dropped to her knees, the shouting officers blending into a chaotic symphony of panic. Adrenaline surged through her with each pulse, urging her to shield Maya from the storm brewing around them. Just as she reached out for her granddaughter, the door shook again, louder this time, rattling the walls. It felt like everything was teetering on the edge, ready to collapse into chaos. "Maya, stay close!" Evelyn demanded, gripping her granddaughter's hand tightly. Maya's wide eyes reflected fear and confusion. "What's happening, Grandma?" Before Evelyn could respond, Sarah surged forward, desperation painted across her face. "Mom, please, you have to believe us." Her voice quivered, full of urgency. "Sean is involved in something dark and dangerous." Every fiber of Evelyn's being fought against the reality Sarah was presenting. "That's not possible!" "Mom, you don't know!" Sarah pressed, glancing back at the figurative storm outside. "You need to listen to me!" Pastor John's gaze hardened, his earlier defiance morphing into something darker. "They're lying to you, Evelyn. This is a mistake." But just as panic swirled like a tornado in the small living room, the back door flew open with a force that sent everyone stumbling back. A tall man burst inside, drenched, wild-eyed, and gasping for breath. "Mom! Sarah! Get out!" His voice echoed through the chaos, urgency slicing through the thick tension. Evelyn's heart raced. "Who are you?" "It's me, Jacob!" he shouted, and everything froze for a heartbeat. Jacob, her son, her youngest, had been gone for years. The boy she fought was buried in that hollow grave. "Jacob?" Evelyn gasped, disbelief swelling in her throat. "How could this be possible? Mom, they found me! But before he could finish, the sound of heavy footsteps thundered down the street. A group of men closing in. "Leave now! They'll kill you!" Evelyn felt the ground slip beneath her. "How are you here? I thought you were dead?" Jacob's eyes blazed with anger and ache. "I had to hide. There are things you don't understand." "Stop!" Pastor John roared, voice trembling with fury and fear. "No! You need to leave my family out of this. You've lied to everyone." Jacob shot back, fists clenched. "This is your fault." The air was thick with tension. Evelyn could feel her heart pounding like a war drum, each beat growing louder. She felt torn, every instinct screaming at her to protect her family. But then Jacob turned, his face twisted in pain. "Mom, I never left you. I just couldn't be with you. Not after everything happened." The pieces started to fall together. Something dark lurked behind Pastor John's silver tongue. Doubts flooded her mind. Was his connection to her son part of some twisted plan? Then, to everyone's shock, Jacob shouted, "He's not the only one lying. I had to get away from him. You don't know what he's capable of." Evelyn's breath caught in her throat. "What do you mean?" "Him and my so-called father? It's all connected. Money, deals, darkness. It's not just about me. It never was." Chaos erupted in the room again as the pounding on the door started once more. But this time it felt desperate, suffocating. Her heart sank as she realized the truth was unraveling faster than she could process. "Jacob, please. Who are they? What is happening?" Before he could answer, Sarah interjected. "Mom, listen. We need to choose now. Trust me or trust him." As the walls closed in, a chilling realization swept through Evelyn. The truth of their lives had been hidden in plain sight all along. And above the noise, just outside, the shadows brandished weapons of chaos, the looming figure now threatening everything they held dear. Evelyn gripped Maya tighter, feeling the weight of choice crushing her spirit. What truth was she willing to face? But in that instance, she knew there was more to this than just survival. Before she could act, the front door gave way, crashing open, and the world fell silent as a new figure stepped inside. It was a woman, familiar yet foreign, her gaze piercing into Evelyn's very soul. "I've come for you all." Evelyn's breath hitched in disbelief. "Who are you?" The woman smiled, an unsettling, predatory smile that sent chills down her spine. I am here to reveal everything you've hidden from yourselves, and it's finally time you all faced the truth. Evelyn's mind spun. Every secret felt like a storm ready to break. Reality twisted further as she realized, what if everything she believed about her family, her faith, her own heart was a lie? Who are you? She demanded again, dread tightening around her throat. And just like that, the ground shook beneath them, a truth poised to unravel lives in ways they never could have imagined. Would they be ready for what was to come? Or had the storm finally found them? Evelyn stared, heart racing, at the unfamiliar woman standing before them. Her smile was disarming, yet chilling, as if she held the secrets of their entire lives in her hands. I've come for you all. The words hung heavy in the air. What do you want? Evelyn snapped, protective instincts flooding her veins. The woman stepped forward, her eyes gleaming with an unsettling intensity. I'm here to reveal the truth, from the very beginning. Behind her, the shadows of danger loomed closer, but Evelyn couldn't tear her gaze away. Start talking! Pastor John's voice was strained, panic flickering in his eyes. You're not taking anyone. Oh, but you're mistaken, she replied smoothly, a hint of amusement dancing on her lips. You've all been living a lie, and it's time to wake up. Before anyone could respond, the house shook with a loud crash from outside. Evelyn's heart raced, confusion and fear warring within her. What was happening? Suddenly, one of the officers shouted, "Get down! We're under attack!" The words sent a chill down her spine. Outside, chaos erupted as men surrounded the house, shouting orders while gunshots rang out. "Jacob, get back!" she screamed as her son rushed toward the front window, eyes filled with determination. But as he turned to look, he froze, mouth agape. "What is it?" Sarah asked, panic lacing her voice. "Mom, it's... Jacob gulped, eyes widening in horror. Then came the sound, the roar of engines. An army of vehicles screeched to a halt with a frenzied, tires squealing across the gravel. Evelyn's breath quickened, and the room pulsed with electric tension. "What is happening?" she whispered. The woman smirked, her confidence growing. "You'll see soon enough." And then, from within the horde, a familiar face emerged. It was Marcus, the local mechanic, and a figure Evelyn had always trusted. But here he was, marching forward, flanked by men in suits and dark sunglasses. They wore expressions that sent chills down her spine. "Marcus?" she breathed, her throat constricting. "What are you doing?" He met her gaze, but there was no warmth, only a cold calculation. "This is bigger than you, Evelyn. You don't understand what you're part of." Then he turned to the woman. "Is it time?" "Yes," she said simply. "Let them see." With a nod, Marcus pulled out something shiny and metallic, and the crowd behind him, of glass around them. Evelyn felt a bone-deep dread settle in her stomach. And then it happened. Just beyond the wreckage, blinding lights flashed, illuminating the faces of those gathered outside. With a booming voice, a man in a suit stepped forward. "Ladies and gentlemen, it is time to reveal the truth." The panic inside Evelyn intensified. Everything felt upside down. "What truth?" she echoed, her voice trembling. "The truth about your family," he announced. "The connections, the funding. It all leads back to you, Evelyn." A gasp swept through the room. "Me? What are you talking about?" Her heart thundered, disbelief mingling with fear. The man continued. Your late husband had dealings far beyond what you ever knew. They go deeper than corruption. He's linked to a cabal that, well, let's just say they control more than just your town. Evelyn staggered back, the ground shifting beneath her. No, that's impossible. But deep inside, a twist of recognition began to awaken. Long-buried secrets rattled and creaked in her mind. You're lying, she shouted. No, the man replied, and suddenly his eyes softened with a hint of sorrow. We have evidence. Your life isn't what you think it is. As thunder crashed outside, the air thickened with anticipation. The shadows danced closer, revealing the hidden connections, the betrayals layered like thick fog. Evelyn's world hung in a delicate balance, every heartbeat echoing doubt and reality. The ground beneath her felt wobbly, and as she wrestled with what she thought she knew, one question loomed larger than the rest. Was the truth about her family worth facing? And as chaos erupted outside, she realized shattering her world may indeed be the only way to find out what lay hidden for so long. Evelyn stood frozen, the weight of the unfolding revelation pressing down on her chest. Jacob was alive. The man in front of her was saying her family was entangled in something sinister. And yet, this wasn't the end. Something deep inside her knew that. The woman with the piercing gaze seemed to revel in their confusion, her eyes glinting like shards of glass, reflecting all. The chaos and hurt that had built up over these years. Enough of this! Shouted Pastor John, stepping forward, defiance warping into something that looked almost desperate. You don't get to wreak havoc here. Evelyn's heart raced with fear as she pushed Maya behind her, shielding her from the storm brewing inside the room. It was time to reveal her own truth, the cracks in her perfect facade finally surfacing. I trusted you, John. We all did. He flinched at her words, and for a brief flicker, the facade slipped. Just then, an overwhelming roar of voices erupted outside. The front yard swarmed with officers now, faces set in determination, and the reality of what was about to explode frightened Evelyn more than anything else. Enough games, the suited man shouted. If you value your lives, you'll listen. The urgency snapped at her heels. She looked at Jacob, saw the silent plea in his eyes that mirrored her own. The truth hung thick in the air. It needed to surface, or everything would fracture beyond repair. Tell us what you know, Evelyn demanded, her voice steady, though her insides twisted with dread. But before anyone could speak, a loud bang reverberated through the house, a frame splintering, then the clatter of classified files spilling across the floor. They spilled like the secrets she'd spent a lifetime holding back. The bizarre woman stepped forward, brushing her fingers across the scattered papers. This is just the beginning, Evelyn. The truth will set you free, but only if you embrace it. No, Evelyn shouted defiantly, raising her voice above the chaos, feeling her resolve surge. We don't need your twisted version of freedom. We need our lives back. The officer's voice boomed outside, urging everyone to step away from the windows. We're prepared to breach if you don't comply. Panic flooded her senses. The lights flickered, casting the room in shifting shadows, a metaphor for their lives. She turned to her family, her heart aching. We're in this together. Whatever happens, we face it together. Suddenly, Jacob stepped forward, his voice scraping against the anxiety in the air. Mom, let's end this now. Show them what we have. He held out a flash drive. Sarah's, he'd seen it, and realized they had proof against the web of lies. Are you sure? Sarah whispered, fear spreading through her expression. Absolutely. Jacob's determination shook Evelyn to her core, anchoring her in this storm. Evelyn nodded, stepping closer, feeling the walls closing in. But this time, it was about dismantling the deceit. This ends now. As she handed the flash drive to the officer, the energy shifted in the room. The truth had been embedded within them all along, hidden beneath layers of misunderstanding, layered in their love, and it was ready to rupture the veneer binding their fates. The officer nodded, urgency replaced by clarity, and he moved to the mic outside. "We're inside! Stand down! We have evidence!" John's facade shattered like fragile glass, confusion breaking over his features. But Evelyn didn't have time to witness his demise. "We're safe now. That's what matters." And as chaos melded into illumination outside, Evelyn took a deep breath, feeling Maya's small hands squeeze her tightly. It felt like a long overdue relief, a release from years of pressure. "The truth may hurt, but it's a light against the dark," she whispered. As sirens blared in the distance, she glanced back at her family. They were standing together, the shadows of their past now dissipating with the dawn. Clarity. With a fragile but steady hope, they plunged ahead. But before you go, you have to subscribe right now. This is the moment to show your support and ensure you don't miss any of the next exclusive stories we have in store for you. Smash that like button right now because it seriously feeds the algorithm and helps us grow. And, for real, flood the comments section with all your thoughts and theories about the ending. What do you think will happen next? Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see how this ends. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's keep this community thriving.